I'm Rick Johansson, and this is Iron Echo Design. In this Inkscape tutorial, we're gonna break stuff. I wanna show you how to do this shatter effect. You can do it on an image or on an object like this. It's actually a little bit more difficult tutorial, but it's done by bringing it back to the absolute basics. So I think it could be good for beginners, intermediates, and if you're advanced, you probably already know this trick, but let's go through it. If you wanna follow along specifically, I am on the template, the A4 template from the welcome screen. It's 210 millimeters by 297. I don't use a space, but if you are going to follow along, you'll have the right ratio. So we'll start with the number one reason why beginners quit Inkscape. And maybe you felt this way when you started out. I know that I did. And in fact, I did quit Inkscape when I first tried it because I couldn't get it to do what I wanted. So let's say you have a beautiful object here. This would be like you're doing a sun graphic and you think, all right, I know, I watched the videos. They have these path effects up here, path. I can do a difference, intersection. Okay, let me try that. I'll make my line. I want to cut my sun in half. So I'll select both objects, path, division, and nothing happens. All right, maybe I'll try a rectangle. That's right. I'll make my rectangle. I'll hold both of them together, path, difference, and nothing. Okay, all right, I'll try eraser. What the? Oh, Inkscape sucks. I'm done. All right, I'm just kidding, but that's exactly how I felt, and maybe some of you also felt the same way. The trick is path functions only work on paths. This sun graphic in the example we just did, that's a group of objects, and a group won't let you do all these different path functions. But if you have a path, so this one circle is an example of a path, the same things we just played with will work. So if I make the line across, select both objects, go to path, division, then it works. When you're watching the tutorials just starting out, at least I remember, they would always say, you know, object's a path or make sure it's a path, but it didn't really register with me and I couldn't get it to work, which makes you want to quit and give up on Inkscape. It's one of the reasons I started this channel because I felt this pain of like trying to figure out the basics and there's stuff you want to do creatively, but you can't get it to work. And all right, off my soapbox, let's do this hack. We want to shatter an object or a picture in this case, and I want to show you the hack how to do it. There's a function called pattern object to pattern. So if you do it in the regular case over here, this is just a little dot. And here we have an object with the yellow fill, be any fill you want. But see this thing right here? That just says pattern. If you're just starting out, I'm on the fill and stroke menu. It's this paintbrush thing in the corner. So fill and stroke on the fill pattern. And here's one of the presets, stripes. These are all preset patterns. There's one checkerboard that come with Inkscape and you can use. You can fill your shape. You can fill anything, a circle. Go to that pattern checkerboard. And it's just a cool thing that they have built in. But on the fly, you can create like a circle and go to object, pattern, object to pattern. And it just created pattern 17746. The number doesn't matter, but it's in there. So if I go back to, let's say we were on just our regular color, I'll go to my patterns and I look for that 17746. And there you go. You can go to edit paths by node and check it out. That, I believe, is the main intention of that function for pattern fill. But the hack is you can take anything and make it into a pattern. This is just a group of orange slices that you might see at a halftime at your kid's soccer. And we're going to go make it into a pattern. So object, pattern, object to pattern. Remember that number 17871. Get this out of the way and make a new rectangle. That green stroke's got to go. So get rid of the stroke and I'll choose, I'm on the fill pattern. It's zoomed in quite a bit and you can change the viewing area if you go to edit paths by node right here. You're going to have to zoom way out and find a little circle and a little square. All right, this is why I'm calling it a hack, because we're kind of digging through the under the hood of Inkscape. I zoomed so far out, I found my X, my circle, and my square. I'm going to grab the X and bring it closer to what I'm actually working with. And then my square, that's going to change the scale of the pattern. So I'll bring that way in. And now I can zoom back to something more reasonable. There you go. You see the pattern we made? It's just repeating our original orange slices. I only want one of them, so now I can go back to the actual object and scale it down just so I have that one, like so. So here is my pattern. Here's the original. This one we cannot do path effects on. This one we can because we because we hacked the system. Just to show you what I mean, I can grab my line and put it on top with hierarchy here. Hold shift. I'll grab my pattern filled square. So that's a path, which is a square, and my line. So I have two paths, which means I can do the path functions, division, and we did it. Okay, now that we have that in our arsenal, let's do it in practice. So here is an object with the 2021 text on a gray rectangle. To prove the point, if I try to slice it up, path division, nothing happens. So I'll select it, object, pattern, object to pattern. It's coming up as 18494. I'll make a similar size one. We'll change it to the new pattern. And you can zoom out and go hunt for the X, circle, and square to resize the pattern, or you can also just drag your area of your rectangle until you see it to start to repeat and adjust it that way. Then go back to the selector tool and you can scale it down. You don't have to shatter 2021. I just wanted to say goodbye to the year and move on to a fresh new start by breaking it up. Let's move this down because I want to show you a quick way on how to make our shattering lines. So this is just an example so you can see what I'm going for. I want to make a whole lot of lines quickly. You can draw them by hand if you want, but I want to keep on theme and go with the path effects. To activate the path effects, you have to select a path. So here we go with just a box on path, path effects. It'll come up on your sidebar and you'll say it's nothing, it's blank. But you need to push the plus down here. So plus will give you another pop-up menu with all these different things you can do. And we've touched on some of them in previous tutorials, but the one for today is called Construct Grid. I'll click on this so it tells you what it is. Create a perspective grid from a 3-node path. So I'll click on that and it automatically took my box, and because down here it was 5 by 5, it created 5 by 5. You could do 3 by 3. 6 by 6, anything you feel like. Let me get this out of the way. Basically, I'm using this method as a quick way to make all the crisscross lines so we can shatter the object. So here's one. If you want to change it further, go to Edit Paths by Node. The circle will let you make the perspective. It's kind of cool. Let's just go with that. And then the squares let you widen or lengthen it. So I'll take this one, Control D, we'll duplicate it. Over here, there's different directionals. We'll flip that one. I don't want it so perfect. I want it to look like it just shattered on the ground. There we go. I want some small shards in there. Control D, flip it again. That's pretty good right there. But remember the first lesson, we can only do these path functions with a single path and another single path. So I have to combine all three of these grids. 1, 2, 3. I'll go to Path, Combine. Now they're all one continuous path. A good way to remember if you're working on a project just going all over the place with stuff, see down here, if I select this over here, it says I'm selecting text. It kind of tells you what you're working with down there. If I select this business, it says path 84. So I know that's a single path. And this, because we created one box with a pattern fill, we know that's a path. So it says rectangle, which counts as a path. And now we can chop it up. I will pause to mention one more feature I want to show you with Inkscape is the tweak tool, because it lets you do this fast. If you've been following along, I like to show methods that are quick, because if you can move quickly, your creativity doesn't get stuck. And when your creativity doesn't get stuck, you can kind of flow and be free. All I'm doing now is kind of spacing it visually where I want the cracks to be. And maybe moving fast isn't your style. You like to be more methodical, and that's cool too. So if you want to really tweak the lines and be more precise with how it breaks, then go for it. But for this example, we are done here. So I'm going to select my grid, hold shift, select my pattern filled rectangle path, go to Path, Division. I like the way that looks. If you don't like the black lines, I'm going to keep them there so you can see what's happening. But let's say you don't want them. You just grab everything and then go to stroke and X out of the stroke. Now they're gone. If you zoom in, I don't know if you can see it on the screen capture, but if you zoom in, they're still there. If you want, you can start grabbing pieces and taking them out. But when you do it that way, no matter how meticulous you are, it doesn't look real. I'm going to show you the tweak objects. I call it the sculpt tool to add a little bit more randomness to it. Okay, the tweak objects, an underrated, unsung tool. It's over here, it says wave. And the way it works, let's say we have a whole bunch of rectangles. Let's put a stroke on there and we'll clone this out. Last couple of tutorials have been on create tiled clones, things you can do. It's over here, create tiled clones. If you want to see how that works, check those out. Just for now, I want to just lay these out. 10's too many. We'll go with 6 by 6. And the only quirk you need to know for the tweak tool is you need a bounding box or it won't work. Without the bounding box, you push it all to your heart's desire and it does nothing. Up here are the settings. So we're on width 10, force 30. And the first mode says move objects in any direction. And it won't work and you get frustrated and want to quit if you don't make the bounding box. So let's bounding box around these tiles. I'm just showing you how it works before we do our masterpiece. And now I can go back to the tweak tool. I'm on move stuff around and it moves, it moves around. Control Z. The workflow we're going to do for our 2021 is we'll start with this one right here that says rotate the objects. And there you go. You can rotate some of them, the whole thing, and then we'll go to the move and jumble them up. It's just a very quick way to play around with, you know, having a little bit of chaos. I centered it up so you can see what's about to happen here. I will bound this whole thing together and my tweak tool settings, 10, 30, and I'll start with rotate. It's like the ice breaking, cracking as you go around. I'm just holding down the mouse button as I click where I see fit. It's almost a cathartic feeling to say goodbye to the year. All right, so we did our rotation. Now I'll go to move around. I'll just push the pieces around. Once you have it set up, it does work pretty intuitively. So if you add more force, it'll push out faster and further. I like 30 because I don't want it to go too fast. Otherwise, you'll have this. So if I do force 90, wham, it jettisons out. Unless you want, let's try that. Oh, see, too much. Tone it down. We'll do a 50. See how these lines, I like how there's really tiny broken shards in there. That's just from that exercise we did making that grid. And again, if you want to be more precise, just go to your individual selector and choose the piece. So this rogue piece came out too far. You can kind of move it. I just feel like whenever I tried to move it by myself, it didn't look as real as even when just joking around with like force 90. Let's say I like the way this looks up here in this corner. I just want to mess around down here. You can make your bounding box just down there. So you can do shift and make your bounding box here. Now I can only move these parts. It almost kind of locks in over here. We'll try 90 straight down to see what happens. Some pieces go flying. Let's just stop there before we ruin it. I'm going to group the whole thing together, then lay it on a background. One final step, if you want to add a little bit of depth to it, you can do Control D, which duplicates the whole thing. I'm going to change that entire duplicate layer, which is now on top of the original, to black. That's a black fill, and we'll add a bit of a blur, maybe 7 or 8, and up on hierarchy I'll drop it down a step, and that will do it. So here's the 2021. Hope everyone can be safe and healthy. 2022 is here. We'll have some fun. This marks the 1 year of this channel. Fly away now and enjoy.